Our next testifier will be Hans Meissner from the New York State Rehab Association. And next up after Hans is Harvey Rosenthal, New York Association of Psychiatric Rehab Services.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Senator DeFrancisco, members, a member of Assembly, Farrell, and members of the fiscal committees thank you for offering us support for the opportunity to voice our views on portions of the proposed executive budget related to mental hygiene issues. I'm Hans Meissner. I'm CEO of the Arc of Rensselaer County, which is right over the river here in Troy, New York, and a longtime board member and former board chair of the New York State Rehabilitation Association. NYSRA is nearing 35 years as a statewide trade association for nonprofit providers of services for New Yorkers of differing abilities. Our providers and the direct care staff are key components of the state delivery system of services and supports for people with developmental disabilities, mental health diagnoses, learning disabilities, and other conditions. Our approximately 100 provider agencies deliver services that include vocational rehabilitation, residential supports, day programs, and many other person-centered services. On many levels, we are comfortable with the governor's proposed budget and are supportive. From a fiscal perspective, we understand that we in New York State confront many challenges, including a sluggish economy, and as well as embedded in a troubled national economy and structural deficits that have accumulated over many years and are often beyond our changes beyond our control in New York State. So what I was hoping to take a look at was what is impacting in specific to the DD system in New York State as we are embarking on many changes. You heard about managed care just before. We are facing the prospect of managed care in the next few years. And this is a system that serves about 126,000 people with developmental disabilities, many of which are supported 24/7 by organizations such as the one that I am employed in. So being part of a field around this time is both exciting and awfully scary at the same time. And that would have been an adequate statement to say about a month ago, until about a week ago the 30-day amendment came down. As you know, we got about $140 million cut to voluntary providers like the Arc of Rensselaer County as part of the agreement with the federal agency CMS around the Medicaid reimbursement. You heard about it before. It's about a $1.1 billion adjustment that then affects our particular agencies at about $240 million. And I'd like to talk a little bit about how it affects our agency, since I think we're emblematic of all the agencies like ours, the 700 that are in New York State. What we are hearing is that we are going to receive a 6% cut. And I'd like you to walk through what my management team had to walk through the other day in terms of the analysis of the impact of that. For our organization, which is $27 million and change, serves over 700 families and individuals in Rensselaer County, that amounts to a $1.5 million cut. So if you take a look at how we budget ourselves, it breaks out as follows. Most of our money, 73%, is in personal services and fringe, and most of the people we hire are direct support professionals, a high school diploma and maybe a 2-year degree. Our average salary for a direct support professional with benefits is about $25,000 to $28,000. That's with benefits now. And the rest of the budget breaks out like this. There's about 6% in property and equipment. That's some of that's already expensed in depreciation. Some of it's lodged to leases, hard to get out of. 11% is in other than personnel expenses, which has been the target of efficiencies cuts over the last 4 or 5 years, because that's where you go. You try to be more efficient as an operation. But with things like gas, oil, heating, food, maintenance skyrocketing each year, it's really hard to remain within a particular budget line. Lastly, our administrative overhead is 6.4%, 6.5%. I think you'd all agree that that's a very small margin for administration. So some of the assumptions about administration don't really play out in most of our organizations. We're pretty low. So where does that leave us? We have a 6% cut to our agency on that size budget. It's a $1.5 million cut. We have to look at direct care staff because that's where most of our money is sitting. And it appears, if we implement straight that way, that we're going to lose about 43 positions. A few positions might be in administration, but since we only have about 8 positions, you got to run the agency on some level. How would that impact us? These obviously would fall in the area of health and safety, where less staff would be available to assist with feeding, hence preventing choking, or reduced staff assisting with doctor's visits, carrying out health and personal care protocols, individualizing services to meet an aging population. Many of our people are aging. Address health care needs in a non-medical facility, which is avoiding a more expensive nursing home placement. It also might mean a reduction and enclosure of services, the inability to staff services, for example, respite, supported employment, family supports. This could result in large waiting lists. Lost revenue from closed services would also impact fiscal stability. There'd be an obvious reduction in service quality. We have a threat here in terms of a migration back to institutional custodial level of care. We also are concerned that we aren't able to carry out more service choice and self-determination, which is really the policy choice of OPWDD and most government agencies. You know that this field has been subject to claims of abuse and neglect. I feel that the voluntary sector's had a successful track record in that area. However, staff reductions would open us up to that vulnerability ourselves. And if we lost a few administrative positions, obviously we wouldn't be able to support the kinds of activities that you need to do to address mandates that seem to be coming fast and furious every day. Lastly, if we started laying off, we'd also have to be considered in terms of carrying the load of unemployment, which is about half the salaries of folks for 26 weeks. So even laying off 40 people we would probably have to look at other adjustments in addition to the tune of about $233,000. So you can see that as an organization like ours that has been flat funded or theoretically capped, you hear about a 2% cap in the MRT, but in DD area, agencies like ours have been capped for 3 years. We've had some trend factors in the past, but they've largely gone to increase staff salaries from about $9 an hour to $9.75. We're really talking about nickels and dimes versus large salary increases. Especially in light of minimum wage increases, staff are wondering, do we get, a bit more money? But these are poverty level wages. They continue to be poverty level wages, even with those trends. So you can see that we're in a fragile situation. We're sort of existing on fumes. And this kind of cut would not only impact workforce, it would impact quality of service, and it would impact the sustainability of organizations like the one I run across the river. So that's one area we're concerned with. We are concerned with also the area around the licensed professionals and agencies. You heard from Lori Cole just before. I think she was very articulate. I don't really have anything to add in that area. And we're also concerned pretty universally with the move of Medicaid functions from OPWDD to the Department of Health. The reason for this is that OPWDD, formerly OMRDD, was created because the medical model looked at people with developmental disabilities as a sickness, and we feel that that's an inappropriate way to face that population. We've moved away from it. We don't want to move back to it. We feel DOH does a great job with acute care, but this is an area they don't know about, and we are very concerned about that. Do you have any questions?
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Now we'll